All right. Good morning, everybody. And with me today, I'm really excited because I am amongst friends. I love when I get to talk about veteran service organizations or military service organizations because that's definitely my background and what I'm passionate about. And with me today, I have two folks from Honoring America's Warriors. And so could you guys introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about yourself? Waco, you want to go first?
Yeah, hi. So I'm a veteran of the Marine Corps and the National Guard of 24 years. I retired back in the summer of 2014, and I am co-founder and current board member of Honoring America's Warriors.
I'm Scotty Deatherage. I'm the executive director for Honoring America's Warriors. And I probably think it's most important that we start by Waco telling you how we got started.
Honoring America's Warriors was formed based on a grandfather's death. So my grandfather was a World War II veteran, unfortunately passed away 1 month before my retirement. And visiting with Scotty, an opportunity came forward to where the more we talked about his death and the difficulty in getting full military honors at his graveside for our family, those challenges existed for the Blakley family. They must exist for other families across the state of Oklahoma, across the nation, quite frankly. And as we dug a little bit more deeper, we found that funeral homes were oftentimes uneducated about a process to even contact somebody, oftentimes even asking the family if their loved one was a veteran. And so out of love for my grandfather, and more importantly for other veterans and their families across the state, we found it really, really imperative that we needed to do something. And out of that honor and respect was hatched Honoring America's Warriors. And we started slow, we're still going, and we're making big changes and a lot of love for families one at a time.
Well, that's a great place to start. And so, Scotty, tell us a little bit about your mission and what you guys do. With that kind of a story to start with, you've really expanded on that and offer quite a bit of programming for veterans and folks around these woods. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Waco, he says he's co-founder. He's the founder. This was his bright idea. And he decided that it would be incumbent upon me to help him with this. And the timing was right. And so I agreed. I said, yeah, I think that's a great idea. And of course, Waco being a transition patient advocate at the VA Medical Center, he was in contact with a lot of these men and women on a daily and basis that didn't have a mission anymore. They had a good income because they had their VA disability. They might have Social Security disability, good income, but nothing to do. So he thought it would be a good idea to take some of these men and women that wanted to do that, put them back in uniform, get them drilled up, and then make ourselves available to augment or render these services where they couldn't exist. And I realized at the time that what he was asking for was going to be a huge task. It's difficult for Department of Defense in some instances, as well as VFWs and Legion posts to meet those obligations. So we took that on, and I realized at the time, I said, we've got to have something else to go along with this. We need to do some outdoor activities, hunting, fishing, shooting sports, hiking, kayaking, whatever that might be, because we had to have an outlet too. We didn't want to just burn a bunch of people up. And so that's how we got started. Those two initial projects were our mission. It took us about a year to get a team together and get them ready. We started drilling with the Naval Operational Support Center across from Tinker, and we had some help from them. And from that, we built a core group that to this day, we've rendered hundreds of different funeral services, memorial services, flag dedications. And so from that, we're kind of going along, and a guy reached out to us that has a kennel in Maple Hills Kennels in Wisconsin. And he just found us on the web and contacted me and said, hey, I've got a really great dog I'd like to give to a veteran. Do you know somebody who could use it? And me being a dog guy, I said, well, absolutely. And come to find out, he would get $3,500 a piece for these dogs. He drove down to Oklahoma City from Wisconsin to deliver this dog. You remember that, Waco. We even had a little to do at the VA Medical Center. So from that, word kind of got out, and then I was contacted by a breeder that had 8 German Shepherd puppies he wanted to donate. Well, then it started getting a little more serious because we had to have an application process and a vetting process. And then we probably need to provide some training. And from that morphed our canine service dog program. We now have 8 trainers. We run 2 different classes per year. And we graduate 35 to 40 veterans and their dogs each year with a highly trained service animal. So we get moving along with that. And of course, we have some guys, one in particular that I met just as soon as he got out of the Army hospitals and came back home, Rusty Dunnigan, a triple amputee, lost both of his legs and his left arm below the elbow. And I realized that we've got to have something to do for guys like this, not realizing that Rusty is the most seriously injured guy that we have in Oklahoma as far as amputees. Not to diminish our doubles and singles, but he survived. And getting him active and keeping him engaged is what brought us to being able to do things for our guys that have adaptive needs. And we have several amputees, vision impaired. We've worked with Blind Veterans of America to help them on some events, some of their long hiking events. So adaptive sports became a big part of that. Well, then being the organization that we kind of are, we got ourselves into another program by accident, and that was our Homes for Warriors program. And it started out as a partnership with Central Oklahoma Habitat for Humanity to build new homes for low-income veterans. Well, through that, we partnered up with Team Rubicon and Home Depot, and now Home Depot and Team Rubicon and us work together each year to do 2 to 3 service projects where we'll find a veteran who is low income, owns their home, is deserving, and we'll take care of the work that we do. And we'll search them out, we'll partner with Home Depot, and we'll go in and do major home repairs. This next project that we have on board, we're pending approval. It would cost this veteran $50,000 to make all these upgrades. So in a nutshell, those are our 5 major programs.
In a nutshell.
Yeah, it's hard to condense all that anymore, but there's a lot more that goes on that we really don't mention as part of our programming, but we do.
You're muted, Carol.
In addition to running all those programs, you've got to raise funds to be able to do that. You've got to solicit volunteer and other support in the community, and that is a full-time job, my friends. So my hat is off to you guys and your entire board and everybody who works on behalf of those service members and those families who are receiving those funeral honors. Anybody who's been to a military funeral and seen that in action knows how precise and how meaningful and impactful that is. And so sometimes I really wish we could highlight that for civilians so that they could see what a beautiful and special thing, that a real gift that you're giving that family, and by honoring that service member's time on active duty. So thank you for doing
We've had the privilege of presenting colors at Dodgers games, Thunder games with that same crew. And, you know, your guys that are doing all the flag folding and playing taps and presenting the flags, when you can give them those kind of opportunities to be in front of those large crowds to present the colors, it's really good. It's cool for them. It's great for organization, but they are precise. They study their manuals. They don't make mistakes. we have never, in hundreds of funerals, never had to refold a flag.
That's pretty impressive. I can't fold my sheets, so I always think it's pretty impressive when people can fold the flag so precisely. And
if I might add, probably the most incredible thing for me is these veterans are strictly volunteers. They do this on their time. We put them back into full dress uniform from head to toe, full awards and decorations. We tailor it to their bodies as they exist now. They have standards for their haircuts, for facial hair. We have men and women that are donating their time, their energy, their efforts to be out there and to show love.
I think that's incredible, especially the part of, service members when they retire, they do change. They're not doing PT the same way that they did when they were active duty. And so to give them something that meets their new normal and, helps them kind of transition, it's a powerful tool that you guys are giving folks. Having worked with many veterans myself, I know that is a challenge of finding meaningful ways to be meaningful after you leave active duty service, because as when you have a career that is so impactful, and to do something that's not, just doesn't resonate with a lot of veterans. So I think it's great that you guys have found a way to keep them engaged and give them that sense of purpose and that sense of meaning. And I really like how you said, Scott, that it started here, but it keeps evolving and growing as you identify new needs that need to be met. And that's what a good nonprofit does. And I think you guys are definitely onto something. How, in the current crisis with COVID-19, are you working around some of those challenges to keep volunteers engaged?
The biggest challenge right now, of course, is there have been no funerals. And for the last 2 months, you've had a lot of families who would normally opt for a casketed burial who are opting for cremations in order to hold those memorial services the way they should be for that family, the way the family wants it at a later date. And so I think in Oklahoma, funeral services start again this Friday, but there's going to be a backlog. And when you have a backlog of families holding urns, they're out of the loop with the funeral home from that point. And most of your funeral homes make those connections for the family to provide the honors. And I'm sure there will be a trickle of that, but the majority of families will be holding an urn and trying to reach out to somebody that can come fold the flag and play taps, and if possible, if there's enough, to fire the rifles. And so we're probably going to see a pretty good challenge this summer of requests, and I'm just hoping that we can meet all those requests best we can. The biggest challenge with the pandemic is what it's done to the economy. Most of our funding comes from major corporations, private foundations, and federal grants. And most of the private foundations, their donations are based on their revenues from their investments throughout the year. And at the end of the year, those investments are how they distribute. Well, when the stock market lost 60% of its value for 2 months, I think that's going to be dialed back quite a ways. I don't think there's going to be as much giving. You have a lot of our corporate grants. They're opting to make their funding available for coronavirus-related causes where they would have normally given to us. So we're going to miss out there. You've got the price of oil, mineral rights owners that depend on those incomes to be charitable. There's going to be a huge dip there. So hopefully we have 3 federal grants pending right now. And if we can get at least the federal grant for our service dog program, we'll probably be in pretty good shape. But the service dog program, that's the one we really probably talk the least about. But there is not one of our programs that has more impact over the other. However, our canine program, we reach more veterans on a personal level, and you become involved in their health care, because part of becoming a service dog handler in our program requires a letter of recommendation from either primary care or mental health that a service dog is for this veteran. And so we get into some very interesting and troubling situations with some of our men and women out there that are still struggling. And some of them have been struggling for the last 10 years. Some of them have just got out and been struggling for the last 2 years. And as you know, every veteran handles their anxieties differently. You know, nobody is the same. Some deal with it better than others. And, you know, your good old Oklahoma kids that are good-hearted, you put them through a meat grinder, they're going to change. And so our service dog program has probably grounded more folks in Oklahoma. Oklahoma is kind of a service dog desert, but we've been able to meet that need, and that's probably been one of the neatest deals that we could have gotten ourselves into.
Very cool. Waco, do you have anything to add to that?
You know, in regards to our services, our programs, and you mentioned volunteers, we couldn't do any of that without their support. Scotty has received contact referrals from as far north as Maine to Washington, obviously all the way through Oklahoma, but we have people nationwide that understand the importance of the programs that we're now running, and how deep-hearted we find this to be a true mission for each and every veteran that we come in contact with, for each veteran that wants to volunteer their time and services to help other veterans, to help their families. The fact that we have veterans that are being laid to rest, oftentimes without military honors, Carol, it's difficult for me to hear. And we're going to take care of that here in Oklahoma, one funeral at a time. We're going to provide a service dog one at a time. We're going to repair a home one at a time, build a home one at a time. It's just remarkable, the volunteers, the veterans that we have, that we couldn't do any of this without them.
As I kind of looked forward and planned our community spotlights for May, I thought a lot about what Memorial Day means. And so what would you share with our audience? What does Memorial Day, or what should they think about this Memorial Day as we're coming out of challenging times? One of the things that I've shared a lot is that this feels very familiar to me, having been a military spouse, going through post 9/11 deployments and being a nation at war for quite some time. This doesn't feel uncomfortable to me like it does some of my civilian friends. And so as I was thinking about that and thinking about this Memorial Day, what could we share with our community members that they can take away this Memorial Day? What words of advice could we share with them based on our experiences, or your experiences?
For me, Memorial Day 2020, the fact that we faced this pandemic, it's very remindful for me of the generations that we're losing regardless of a pandemic. The World War II veterans are disappearing, Korean War, and now Vietnam. We have an obligation as a country to ensure that they understand the sacrifices were worth everything.
That's right. I will say this. Our country has been fighting somebody ever since we decided to make this a free country. And we will always have to fight for it, because that's how a free society lives. And there will always be men and women who have to sign up voluntarily to defend this country. And you're talking, less than 3% of our population, and less than 0.5% of our population will actually see fighting. But Memorial Day is about remembering those sacrifices, because Memorial Day honors those that are no longer with us. Veterans Day is to honor those that are still alive. But Memorial Day is to remember the sacrifices that has made our country free and has kept us free and will continue to keep us free until the end of time.
Scotty, I think we would be remiss if we also didn't mention Memorial Day for those that have committed suicide.
That's right. We have some personal friends who've been down that road. We've had some that we've looked after for quite some time that for whatever reason just couldn't stick it out or wasn't able to. And I'm sure all three of us have been exposed to that at one point or another. But you can only learn from those situations. Do the best you can. You can't help everybody, but you can make an impact.
And you guys are doing just that, making an impact. And like I said, you represent an entire board who does great work every day trying to meet those needs and preventing suicide by connecting service members to opportunities to continue to serve and to feel like they're making a difference. So I think that that's incredibly important.
Yes, and I think it's important that I let you know that we hear a lot about suicide prevention, and you have a lot of organizations that raise money to prevent suicide. But what is suicide prevention? What does that look like in the real world if you're going to help a veteran alleviate the anxiety to make them want to go to the dark side? It's about providing as many possible programs as you can, trying to encompass as many men and women as you can, and get them in a situation where they can start to make other friends, other relationships. There's still going to be men and women that want to isolate. But if you can break down some of those barriers, those are the things that change veteran suicide, along with their health care. The mental health professionals that we work with at the VA Medical Center are phenomenal. They work extremely hard, and they've got a great track record of keeping these men and women in great shape. And what the VA doesn't do to themselves, they've got places where they can send men and women to. One of our recent canine recipients come back from 4 months of an outpatient or an inpatient facility to deal with PTSD. So it still happens every day, and there's still some young ones out there. So
absolutely. Where can people go if they want to support either volunteering or donating? Where can they go to support your work and your mission?
They can go to honoringamericaswarriors.org. And on our website, yes, you can donate there through Stripe. It's very simple and fast and efficient, safe. But also our applications for our programs are listed there. If you want to join the Outdoor Nation, want to do some outdoor stuff, you can join there. If you want to apply for a service dog, you can apply there. So everything can be done there. And but any more websites have become portals for information. And the word spreads through our social media followings. And you can find us on Facebook at Honoring America's Warriors. There's some, I think, close to 250,000 followers now. So it's a pretty good following. And that's really how you can keep up in real time with what we do. We're not posting a bunch of daily memes about something that has nothing to do with us. It's about what we're doing.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys joining me today and sharing a little bit about your organization and what you do, and reminding us all how important it is to take care of those who sacrifice so much for us and protect our freedoms. So thank you, and hope that you too have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend celebrating all those who you'll be missing.
We appreciate the spotlight for Honoring America's Warriors, and I just ask everybody to keep a spotlight every day for every veteran.